statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome Bitcoiners, welcome traders, welcome followers, welcome supporters, welcome haters. Welcome to everyone. Welcome once again to another live space with Oliver Velez. Of course, my name is Oliver Velez, and I want to be your Bitcoiner for life, or at least that's what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be that voice in the wilderness, as it were, that voice of clarity in the midst of a lot of noise that helps you understand why Bitcoin is not just an item, another item to profit from. What I'm trying to do is be that voice that makes you understand that Bitcoin is freedom and Bitcoin is the savior. That Bitcoin is not just simply something that you buy for $1 and sell it for $2. That Bitcoin is one of the most, I believe, society-changing things that the human race has ever come in contact with. What I'm trying to convince you of is that we are extraordinarily fortunate because we are living at a time where we can see this unfold live. We're living at a time of the highest and the greatest opportunity. I believe that at one point in the future, many of maybe our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will say, wow, you actually lived during the time when Bitcoin was just born. You were living at a time where people could buy this. You were living at a time where people didn't believe in this. You were living at a time when it was this price. You were living at a time where the organizations were giving away free Satoshis. How old are you? I want to be that voice that makes you understand that we are facing and are presented with probably what I consider to be the biggest opportunity the human species has ever had. And what's interesting is that almost every single new societal innovation has actually been the best that the human race has ever experienced. That we've never had an innovation, a key change that hasn't been the biggest opportunity in the history of the evolutionary process of humans. And so each successive innovation has elevated the standard of lives of the human species. Every single one has superseded in importance all the other prior ones. And I believe that we have one here, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin is that. And I hope that our talks here, the ones that we have live, the ones that you can obviously listen to in recorded form later, help you realize that if you haven't realized that already. All right, guys, today I wanted to have what I hope will be a rather brief but very impactful talk on a very important topic or a very important question that I think all of you, in particular those who are not quite convinced of anything that I actually just spoke about. I want to talk about a question that I think should be one of the most important questions you ask yourselves. When is enough enough? Have you decided when enough is enough? And I am going to add flesh to that question so that you understand specifically and exactly what I'm referring to. Now, before I do that, I do want to let anyone who is not familiar with the talks that we have here, I do not do live spaces in which I pass the mic to you. So your requests for the mic will basically be for naught. I feel that my style of delivery is best given in the form of a monologue. And during that monologue, you are absolutely free to ask any question your heart desires. Then, of course, you can ask questions afterwards. I normally don't get many questions, but you are certainly open and free to do that. I also want you to know that these live talks do wind up being episodes on my Bitcoin podcast called Bitcoin Unleashed. I strongly encourage that you search that out, follow it. I've decided to dedicate a good portion of my professional time to helping you raise your level of sophistication, your understanding, your knowledge about Bitcoin. And I believe that Bitcoin Unleashed does go a long way to accomplish that. I believe there's something like 70 different or 90 plus different clips that I believe will help you accomplish that on the Fountain app. The Fountain app is one of my favorite because you can listen to me and other podcasters and actually receive free sats for doing so. But Bitcoin Unleashed is accessible on every single podcasting platform you can think of. So you pick the poison of your choice. All right. I want to appreciate all of those who take the time out of their lives to join me live. It is something that I don't take for granted. I promised a long time ago that each time I'm afforded the opportunity to speak with you live, to speak with you in front of a mic, on a stage, on a podium, in a live space like this, I promised a long time ago that I would try my best to give something of value, to give something that I believe has the potential to reward you for the rest of your life. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to accomplish that here tonight. All right, so let's get to the question at hand. Ladies, gentlemen, when is enough enough? Have you actually decided that? Have you answered the question, especially if you're not quite sold on my notion that Bitcoin is freedom and that you don't ever sell freedom to go back to slavery? Especially if you don't believe that Bitcoin is the savior. You might be asking, Oliver, the savior from what? The savior from being debased, the savior from theft, the savior from uncertainty, the savior from being coerced to work for another man's coupon that they paint cute little pictures on and force you to give up your life, your skill, your knowledge, your information, your time. A coupon that you have absolutely no control over, a coupon that is in the control of a small group of men that can print at will and price at will. This is a system that I believe is on its way out, and Bitcoin is the savior from this modern day financial form of slavery. Whenever you have to give your time to another, you are a slave. You see, we have traditionally thought that slavery, when most people think of slavery, they think of the extreme version of slavery. They think of a slave that has no control over his life. They think of a slave, they think in terms of they think of the form of slavery in which you give 100% of your time and 100% of the fruits of the labor of your time to another man. And I'm here to tell you that there are different levels of slavery, and that today, taking 100% of an individual's time and all of the fruits of the labor of that time is not the form of slavery. The form of slavery that we have today is slyer than the old form. The form of slavery we have today is not specifically targeted to a small group of people, a certain color, a certain class, a certain geographic area. The form of slavery I'm talking about is global. The form of slavery I'm talking about touches virtually every single human being on earth. Virtually every single human being on earth is subject to a small group of men that compel them to work for their money. It is not a money that is global and neutral and universal. It is a money that has been designed by a small group of people, and that because you were born on their plantation, because you were born on the land that they claim is theirs, because you happen from a biological point of view, happen to be born in this country, in this region, at this geographical point, you are subject to the rules of that geographical location. On that geographical location, a small group of men control a piece of paper, a coupon that they created. And because just by chance you were born on their plantation, you must abide by their laws, and you must give up your time and everything that you have and everything that you are. You must give it up for the piece of paper or the coupon that this small group of men have created. This small group of men have not only created this coupon that you are forced to work for, they control the price of it, they control the supply of it. They debase you, they force you to work for the coupon, and when you have the coupon, they lessen the value of the coupon to make you have to go back into their little workforce and work all over again. These men have designed a system by which you work harder and harder every single year for the same amount of coupons, and the same amount of coupons buys less of the junk that they force you to use it on. This is what Bitcoin comes to free you from. This is why I call Bitcoin freedom. This is why Bitcoin is your and my savior. Bitcoin is a global, neutral, censorshipless, permissionless money that is available to every single human being on earth, irrespective of where you're born. It is an open money that is accessible to every single human being on earth, irrespective of color, irrespective of class, irrespective of geographical location, irrespective of status, irrespective of educational level, irrespective of color, irrespective of gender, irrespective of your pronoun. It is available to every living human being on earth, yet it is outside of the control of any human being on earth. It is fair. It is never sick at sea. It has kept every single promise it presented in October 31 of 2008. It has never failed us. It has laid out its monetary policy over the next 100+ years, all the way out to the year 2140. Not only is it not subject to the control, the confiscation, and the debasement of these elite men with their own coupons money, not only is it outside of the control of them, it will outlast them, because it is forever. It is timeless. Why is Bitcoin timeless and forever? Because Bitcoin, at its essence, is really just your word. Bitcoin is going to teach us, for once as a human species, how to keep your word. There used to be a saying a long time ago that said, "My word is my bond." This statement meant that my word was as good as gold back in the old days. My word is my bond. But human beings have failed over the millennia to really make that true. Words are constantly broken. Promises are constantly broken. Trust is constantly violated and has been throughout the ages for time immemorial. And Bitcoin has come on the scene to actually demand from the human race that your word is your bond, because Bitcoin is your word. And how does one confiscate your word? How does one ban your words? Bitcoin is 12 to 24 words, which you can keep in your head, and no one can steal the words in your head. No one can debase the words in your head. Your word is finally your bond. Your words are your secret. It was said, I believe, by Benjamin Franklin, but I could be wrong. It was said by him or someone else in the past that in order for two men to keep a secret, one of them must die. That's how untrustworthy human beings are. But Bitcoin demands that all human beings keep a secret. That secret is their 12 to 24 words. Bitcoin's going to teach us how to be responsible, how to keep our word, and how to finally rise to the level where we're capable of keeping a secret. Bitcoin's going to raise the standard of being a human being. And it is for this reason and many others why I call Bitcoin freedom. Bitcoin is our savior. It's the only savior. And I want to be that voice in the wilderness that convinces you of that if you haven't been convinced already. All right, guys. So that's my little monologue. I always like to sort of do a little, a little kind of introductory talk about how special Bitcoin is, to allow all of those who are stumbling into this live talk to get settled. Please grab the beverage of your choice. If you like, grab a pen and a notebook, something to take notes with if you like. That's what I always do. Let's get started. So when is enough, guys? And have you decided? And in a moment, you'll understand what that question means. If any of you have known me for any length of time, you are aware of the fact that I've spent the better part of my life entrenched in the traditional financial arena, TradFi. In fact, over the past 4 decades, 37 of my 43 years in financial markets was as a professional trader. I've traded for some of the most respected firms on Wall Street. I've been hailed as a pioneer in the direct access trading space, and I've built some of the industry's largest firms. That's right. Even today, my operation spans 95 different countries around the world. I tell you this not to give you my resume, not to brag, not to boast, but rather to express that I just might be able to speak somewhat authoritatively about the industry, what metrics the traditional finance industry uses, and how the people in that industry think. It is important that you understand this. In particular, I want you to understand one metric, one golden metric that everyone in my industry glorifies. This metric, for lack of a better term, is called or named the 10-year performance record. 10 years. You see, in my industry, this is the gold standard. Your 10-year performance record is the gold standard. This is the record that determines whether you are a success or not. It's not your 2-year record. It's not your 6-month record. It's not even your 5-year record. It's your 10-year record. That's what is considered to be the gold standard, what I will call today the Bitcoin standard. It is what separates the true from the false. Your 10-year record is irrefutable, and it determines the winners from the triers, the glorified from the losers, and the failures. Your 10-year record is what cements you in stone in my business. In all of my professional career, I was taught and encouraged that if you want to know what's true, check out the 10-year record. If you want to know if a hedge fund manager is truly talented and real and not a fly-by-night hedge fund manager, they've got to have 10 years under their belt, and the 10 years has got to be decent, and if not stellar. I've been taught that when you're looking to put money into mutual funds, you want a mutual fund that has a track record, not a 2-year track record, not a 3-year track record, but a 10-year track record. Don't put money into mutual funds that have less than a 10-year record. I was taught that early in my career, which started in the middle of the 1980s. I was taught that when you seek out a money manager, you want a money manager that has a 10-year record. That if you wanted to understand the trends of the market, that you looked over major indices like the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ Composite Index, the NASDAQ 100, or any of the asset classes. You wanted to look at their 10-year record, the 10-year performance, the 10-year chart, to get a feel for all the cycles that they go through over a 10-year block, a decade. I was also taught that technologies are not really tested and true unless they have 10 years under their belt to prove their lasting power. I was taught that it's not just a few quarters of good performance on the part of companies that you want to see. 10 years of a company being at the top of its industry, 10 years, a decade of dominating, 10 years of growth, 10 years of doing what they set out to do. I was taught that even in the area of skill sets, that if you don't have 10 years under your belt, it's not tested. Innovations aren't real innovations until they have lasted 10 years or more. Otherwise, they're fads. They are flashes in the pan. No more. Now, why is this period of time so special? Why is it not 5 years? Why is it 10 years? Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this 10-year performance metric is so golden, so Bitcoin-like. Reason number one, because most don't last. Most of anything doesn't last 10 years. The average lifespan of a business is less than 5 years. 90+% of all businesses are out of business inside of 5 years. Most businesses don't last 10 years. Did you know that the average lifespan of a publicly traded company is less than 16 years? We're talking about a publicly traded company. You see, the problem is that the news makes you aware of only a very small handful of companies, publicly traded companies. You hear the same names all the time. You hear Starbucks, you hear McDonald's, you hear Microsoft, you hear Apple, you hear Google, Amazon, but there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of publicly traded companies you've never heard of and will never hear of. Why? Because they don't last. You only hear about the ones that last a decade or more. Most of anything doesn't last. How long have you lasted keeping yourself healthy? How long have you lasted keeping a promise? How many times have you made a promise on the 1st of January and kept the promise for a decade? How many marriages last 10 years today? Most things don't last 10 years. This is why the 10-year record is so powerful. It takes 10 years. It takes 10 minutes to do certain things. It takes 10 seconds to write a post on X or Twitter. It takes 10 years to build a real name, a real reputation. My dad used to say, Oliver, in order to win in this world, I used to hear this at the dinner table my whole adolescent life. Oliver, listen to me, son, he used to say. I used to hear it over and over again. He would tell it to me like it was the first time. And it would be like the 40,000th time. Oliver, sit down, listen to me. In order to win in this world, Oliver, you have to last. He used to tell me that lasting was the trick, that lasting was life's hack to being in the top 15% of everything in the world. He used to say, anything you want to do, if you just last long enough, almost everyone who's competing against you, almost everyone's going to drop out. Pick anything, Oliver, he would say, and just don't stop. And watch them fall by the wayside. Most people don't last, Oliver, at anything. He used to say, you don't even need talent, Oliver. You don't even need talent to win in this world. All you have to do is outlast the majority of people. They will fall like flies. And just by virtue of lasting with no talent, you're going to be in the top 15% of anything you choose. Last, Oliver, last. What he was really telling me, without really knowing, is get to 10 years. Get to 10 years, Oliver. And no one, you'll look around after 10 years and no one's going to be there. You're going to be all by yourself and you're going to be able to be basically number one just by lasting. Now, he used to say, but if you add, you'll win just by lasting with no talent. Add a little drop of talent to this combination, Oliver, and you will be number one. If you last and you're talented, OMG. You can get to the top without talent, just last. But if you add a little bit of talent, you'll be so far ahead in first place. He used to say, I use this often. You'll be so far ahead in first place, Oliver, that whoever's in second place will think they're in first place because you will have lapped them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times because they won't be able to see you. You'll be so far in first place, they won't be able to see you and they will think they're in first place. That's what the experience of second place will be. What he was really trying to tell me without knowing was get to 10 years, Oliver. No one's going to be left. So reason number one, most don't last. Why else is this 10-year record so powerful? Because 10 years can't be faked. You see, it's virtually impossible to last 10 years and be fake. Fakeness is usually sniffed out before 10 years. If you're faking it, time will strip you naked. Time will reveal your lack of talent, your lack of skill, your lack of ability. Time will catch up to you. And that time will be far less than 10 years. You can't fake a 10-year record. You can't fake it. In order to have lasted 10 years, something must be real. In order to have lasted 10 years, something must be true. In order to last 10 years, it requires too much discipline. It requires too much stick-to-itiveness. It requires too much determination. There must be something there if you've lasted this long. You can't fake a 10-year record. You can't fake that consistency. You can't fake that survivability. Now, some people might say, well, Oliver, there have been frauds that have lasted longer than 10 years. Like look at Bernie Madoff. Well, in a way that's true, but in a real way it's not, because the emperor had no clothes long before He was captured. You see, Bernie Madoff was discovered long before the first 10-year period occurred. It was just ignored because of power, because of privilege. But he was found long ago. He bought his way to more time. You can't fake 10 years. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3, everything that is going to go wrong will happen inside of 10 years. And if you have survived that, it's real. Everything that possibly can take you out, you will have experienced, in most cases, multiple times. That is enough time to have life throw everything it possibly can at you. And if you are still standing, if you still have your shirt, your shoes, your socks, your underwear on after 10 years, it's got to be real. You will have gone through so many cycles, so many ups and downs. You would have taken so many blows. And that is reason number 3. It's proof that you have survived every possible thing that can ever take you out, and you outlasted that you survived it, that you overcame every blow that could ever come your way, that today, after 10 years, nothing can possibly surprise you because you've seen it before. And it is for these 3 reasons that the 10-year record is so powerful. Most don't last. 10 years can't be faked. And over a 10-year period, you will have survived every possible thing that could ever possibly take you out. You won. You won. So, with all of what I've explained to you about 10 years, I ask you once again, how much is enough? How much time for you is enough? What else do you need to see before you believe in Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is giving you 15 years. Bitcoin is giving you 15 years of success. How many more years do you need? Bitcoin has gone over and beyond the 10-year standard. That period of time that guarantees that you're real, that guarantees that it can't be fake, that guarantees that it can't be taken out at this particular point now. It's given you 15 years. How many more do you need? How much more time is enough for you? Have you decided that? Have you said, well, no, Oliver, 15 years is not enough, but 20 is? Because if you've done that, then you're approaching it intelligently. If you just say, nah, I don't believe it, it's 15 years, but I still don't believe it, and you leave it open-ended like that, you're an idiot. So once again, I ask you, how much is enough? How much time is enough for you? Bitcoin's given you 15 years of success. Bitcoin is giving you 15 years during which it has become one of the most valuable assets on planet Earth. It has outpaced over 7,000 assets that exist today. There are over 7,000 assets in the world, and it is number 9, 10 today. In less than 15 years, what else? What else do you need to see? When is enough enough? In less than 15 years, it has taken out 85% of all the money in the world. There are 200 countries with 200 different monies, different currencies. It is number 16th in the world in less than 15 years. Some of these countries are thousands of years old, hundreds of years old. Some of their currencies are hundreds upon hundreds of years old. And in less than 15 years, Bitcoin is number 16th, the 16th most valuable currency on planet Earth. When is enough enough? Have you decided that? Have you put a cap on it? If you are still an unbeliever, it's given you 15 years of never losing. When is enough enough? It's given you 15 years of never failing, never breaking its promise. It's given you over 10 years of never being down for a millisecond, never being down once in the last 10 years. Never a glitch, never a halt, never a hack. For 15 years, it has kept every single promise that it laid out October 31st, 2008. It has never been sick at sea. It has never been stopped. It has never been halted in any way. It has never broken its word. It has never lied to you. It has never debased you. It has never stolen from you. So how many more years of that do you need to see before you start believing? We're at the 15-year mark. Do you need 40 years? Is that the point at which you'll say, oh, so now there's a 40-year record of this. Now I can believe. Is it 40? Is that the magic number for you? Is it your whole lifetime? Like Oliver, on my deathbed, I will decide. Is that what you've decided? On my deathbed, that's when I will decide if this is real or not. Is that what's enough? Is it 100 years that goes way beyond your life? Like at what point, what does Bitcoin have to do? And how long does it have to keep doing it for you to say, I see it now? And once again, I'll say this. If you haven't decided that for yourself and you've left it open-ended as an unbeliever, you are dumb. I'm sorry. You're dumb. Because you've already got in your face, provably, a global money that is not in the hands of any human being, that hasn't been down in over 10 years, that has kept every single promise, that has laid out its monetary policy all the way to the year 2140. Nothing in your life has done that. No country, no organization, no government, nothing has done that. It has laid out its payment scale. It has promised that on average every 10 minutes, it will release a brand new portion of itself to the world. It has done that without fail. It has promised to be the most secure vault the world has ever seen. It's accomplished that. It's never been hacked. There is nothing on earth except Bitcoin that hasn't been hacked, hasn't been exploited. It promised that no man will be able to steal from you. Bitcoin is unstealable. And in this time, it has become the best performing asset the world has ever had. It has become the fastest adopted technology the world has ever had. So once again, I ask you, when is enough enough? At what point will Bitcoin have put in your face in an unquestionable way? At what point Will you be able to say, okay, Bitcoin, you've put enough in my face. I'm yours. Have you decided that point for yourself? Or have you just left it open to be an ignorant naysayer who's going to miss out on the greatest opportunity that's ever been presented to human beings? Who are you to see all of this, to know all of this and still doubt? Who are you? Like, what level of intelligence do you have to see all of these things, to know all of these things, and to still be a doubter? Who are you? How does your mind work? Where did you go to school? What's your IQ? Wow. I was a doubter. I fired traders from my organization because they wouldn't shut up about Bitcoin in 2017. I wish I could get it back. I wish I could get those moments back. But I couldn't, when I looked, I couldn't keep ignoring it. I couldn't keep denying it. That would be the epitome of ignorance and stupidity, to see all of this and to still, just out of ignorance, say, I still don't believe it. So once again, I ask you, when is enough for you? And have you decided? Have you specifically nailed down the point? Oliver, when Bitcoin does this, I'm in. And maybe you've done that. So maybe you've done something like, well, Oliver, you know what? If Bitcoin goes to a new all-time high this time, I'm a believer. And that would be intelligent. A little bit late because you can do it now, but that's better than, I don't believe it because I just don't want to believe it. That's better. That's a method. That's a strategy. That's applying some metric to your disbelief. And I respect that. Oliver, when Bitcoin experiences its next crash, and if that crash doesn't go to zero, I'm a believer. I respect that. I don't think it's the best, but at least there's some method to your disbelief. There's some metric to knowing, setting for yourself a plan, and not keeping your blinded disbelief in limbo and just vague. I am blown away. After all of these years, I am still blown away at how many somewhat intelligent people, blown away at how they still don't get the fact that the greatest opportunity in something is not after it's obvious to the world. It's before. That all the time in my comments, every single day, I am dealing with comments about Bitcoin's imperfections or what ifs and buts and what abouts. Well, only one country has adopted it as legal tender. Yes, isn't that great? Or are you waiting for all 200? Like, when do you think the opportunity is, late or early? There was a time when it was one person that adopted Bitcoin early. And then there was a time where one group adopted Bitcoin early. Then there was a time where one organization, one company adopted Bitcoin. And then there was a time where one publicly traded company adopted Bitcoin. And then there was a time where one country, one institution, one money manager, one large asset manager. There's always the start at one. So when do you feel it's opportunistic? When every single I is dotted and every single T is crossed, and every person on planet Earth knows that it is the Savior, that's when you think the opportunity is? Is that what you're waiting for? Is that when it's enough? When it's already, it's number 9th or 10th on the entire globe's asset list. Are you waiting for it to be number 1 in the world? That's when you think it's the time? Then you don't understand opportunity. Bitcoin is not perfect, but you don't want it to be perfect, because if it's perfect, then it's late. You want to get in on the ground floor. You want to get in when there's growth ahead of you. You want to get in when there's many more improvements to be made, which makes it only more valuable. The institutions that play in my space, they don't get into a company after it has become the number 1 company in the industry and one of the number 1 companies in the world, and every IRA account owns it and every financial organization owns the share. They don't then get in. They get in before the world gets in. They get in before the company is even publicly available to you. The opportunity is not after it checks every single box on your list. The opportunity is when there are many boxes not checked yet. You don't want Bitcoin to satisfy every question and every doubt you have yet, because that's not where the opportunity is. You want it when only one country in the world has adopted it. You want it when it's early. But what's beautiful about Bitcoin is, despite the fact that it's early, it's number 1 in terms of every single thing else as an alternative. Every investment in the world can't even claim to be close to Bitcoin. Every conceivable time frame you pick, Bitcoin has beat every other option that you feel is a good option. It has beat it in 1 month. Bitcoin has the all-time record for 1 month gains. Bitcoin has the all-time record for 2 month gains, 3 month gains, 6 month gains, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. When is enough enough? Bitcoin has a cumulative annual growth rate of 213%. The second place has a cumulative annual growth rate over the past 10 years of 16%. 213%, 16% is second place. Everyone says that the NASDAQ has the best CAGR, cumulative annualized growth rate. Everyone points to the NASDAQ. Why? Because first place is so far ahead, just like my dad used to say. First place is so far ahead because the NASDAQ can't see first place. That's how far ahead Bitcoin is. It believes that it's in first place. I am telling you that it won't be early forever. In one way, it will always be early. But I am talking about the type of early where you cannot just be a beneficiary of the Bitcoin network, but you can be part of that early group called the claim stakers. That's what I call them. You can be part of that group that stakes your claim in the protocol itself, because the majority of human beings that will ever live will never be able to stake their claim. They will be able to benefit from Bitcoin. They will be able to utilize Bitcoin, but they will never be able to stake their claim. They will never be able to have a full Bitcoin. They will never be able to have a handful of Bitcoin. They will never be able to have a quarter of a Bitcoin, a half of a Bitcoin, a tenth of a Bitcoin. Do you realize that billions upon billions upon billions of people not born yet will never have the opportunity that you have today? Your living grandkids, your living some of you, your living kids won't believe that you lived during a time where you could buy it. Someone sold this to you? How stupid were they? Yes, I believe there's a time coming where if you sell it, you will not get it back, not in any significant chunks. There was a time in the adoption of the United States by Westerners. I'm choosing my words very carefully here. The adoption of the United States by invading Westerners. There was a time when land was free. Oh, yes. You see, towns and regions and territories, they would have what's called land runs. They would hang notices on the tavern walls and the tavern doors. Saturday morning at 10 a.m., there will be a land run. And on these notices would map out the details of the land run. It's a 60-second run that's going to be held in this region. This run is being held because we want this region to be developed. And so we're encouraging people to develop this undeveloped region by giving you free plots of land. You will start at a certain line and a whistle will be blown. You will have 60 seconds to run in this path until the whistle goes off again. And when the whistle goes off again, you are to take this wooden stake that we give you at the starting line, and you are to plant it. You are to take this stake and plant it into the ground. So get ready to run fast. And this is where that term, stake your claim, came from. These early adopters of the United States got free land. They were early enough to be able to stake their claim. Now, there was a time where Bitcoin was handed out for free, the same way land in the United States was handed out for free. There was something called the Bitcoin faucet. Look it up. Gavin, the Bitcoin faucet used to spit out a free trough of 50 Bitcoin. All you had to do was come with an email and solve a captcha to ensure that you weren't a bot. You know the captchas that says, okay, what letter is this? Small d, capital F, number 1, like that. And if you solved it, boop, out, and provided a wallet address, you got 50 free Bitcoin. We are beyond the phase where you can stake your claim for free. But just like In America, when free land wasn't given away, the next stage went. The next stage of adoption happened. Cheap land. We're not giving away land for free, but if you're willing to come out here and start your life, we've got a funded program that will guarantee that you will own an acre of land for pennies on the dollar. And that is the stage that we are in now. We are in the pennies on the dollar stage. You can't get it free anymore. But we're on the stage where you can get Satoshis free, and you guys won't even go listen to my talks or anyone's talk for that matter on the Fountain app to receive free Satoshis. It means nothing to you. The same way people poo-pooed free full Bitcoin back in 2010, 2011. Because it wasn't worth anything or wasn't worth that much, they poo-pooed it. They wouldn't even bother pulling up the URL and submitting a freaking email address to receive 50 Bitcoin. Why? Because they considered it worthless. It wasn't worth that much. Today, Satoshis are given to you free for listening to me. How special I am. Woo-hoo. Or anyone for that matter. And you won't even do it because you're committing the same mistake, because you think that it's not worth very much. So why waste my time? Do you know that $1 invested in Bitcoin in 2010 is almost $40 million today? I'm not making this up. Go look it up. $1 in 2010. And many of you would have said, I'm not putting $1 into this thing for what? You wouldn't have even wasted $1 in 2010. And now you look back and see how ridiculous that is, and you're making the same mistake. While you look back on the people that you feel were stupid for not taking the time to get 50 free Bitcoin, you're doing the same thing by not receiving 100 or 200 Satoshis today for free. You're the same stupidity. So once again, my final time asking you, when is enough enough? What else does Bitcoin need to do? It's already past the 10-year standard. It's already better performing than anything that has ever existed on Earth. You looking for more performance than the best? It's already the most secure network the world has ever had access to. You're waiting for it to get more secure than being the most secure? It's already the fastest adopted technology the world has ever seen. What are you waiting for? For it to get faster than the fastest? Does that even make sense? It's already proven that it's not a bubble. Bubbles don't come back after their burst, do they? You don't believe me? Try it. Blow up a bubble, tie it, and then take a pen and burst it and see if it will come back. Bubbles don't come back after their burst. It's already proven that it's not a bubble. What else do you need to see? And if you're still not a believer, I encourage that you determine what it takes. I encourage that you just don't stay ignorant and leave it open-ended. That's just dumb. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. That's it. That's all. I'm done. Yeah. How many people do I have here listening to me? How many people? It's probably like 5 people here. I know it's late. In my part of the world. Oh, there's more than 5. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I usually take some questions. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to see. I don't usually get a lot of questions here. All right. Bitcoin Chris is saying, yeah, gold could never do what Bitcoin did. No, gold's time is over, guys. It has served us well, but thousands of years, in fact. Silver's 9,000 years, has been used for 9,000 years, and gold's been used for 6,000 years. A lot of people don't realize that silver was the world's standard. The world's monetary standard was on silver for thousands of years until this brand new Bitcoin-like thing came into existence. And when it did, just like you, people didn't believe it. They're like, I'm not giving up my silver for this new rock. This has been money for us for thousands of years. What am I, this new thing because it's a freaking different color? No, I'm not doing that. I'm staying on silver. And they all became poor. Do you realize that the country that dominated the world when the world was on the silver standard was China? China owned more silver than any country in the world, and it ruled with an iron freaking fist. But when gold came on the scene and started to eat silver's lunch, China couldn't let go. China couldn't make the switch. China refused to make the transition because they're like, I have all of this gold and I have all of this silver and I'm the king. Why am I going to go to something else where I'm not the king? And so they latched on and refused to move to the gold standard. And silver went from, and China, because of that grand error of not adopting the new thing, they went from being number 1 in the world to being last in the world for thousands of years. They lost thousands of years because of that one mistake of not moving to the new monetary standard. And I'm here to tell you that some of you are doing the same thing. You're making the same mistake China made thousands of years ago. Bitcoin is the new monetary standard. It is eating everybody's lunch. It is eating the world. And it's doing it in your face every 10 minutes of your life. When is enough enough? When is enough enough? All right, let's see here. Derek says, Oliver, you made my day when I saw this notification. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, listen. Once again, I appreciate you all for taking your most precious commodity, your most precious item in life, which is your time, giving it to me. Bitcoin is scarce. It is rare. But it is not more special than your time. Your time, is the only thing more valuable than Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. And you've given it here to me tonight, and it's something that I do not take for granted. I hope that I have delivered something of value to you, something that you can think about, ponder, maybe something that potentially can affect your life forever. Signing off. You know what to do. Go to work. Go to work, guys. Stack harder. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!